Hello. Hi.
Good morning.
Hyvää huomenta.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Servus.
And hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Jó reggelt kívánok. Good morning.
Γεια σας, από την όμορφη Κύπρο.
It's my distinct honor to be here today in the European Parliament.
We want to become aware of the problems Europe faces. And our goal is to examine the subjects from different angles, to find a compromise and lead to a road towards a better tomorrow. In doing so, we want to exercise our rights, to be heard in an international forum. We also believe in the power of cooperation, which is the process of groups of organisms working or acting together for a common or mutual benefit, as opposed to working in competition for selfish benefits. And we believe this is of significant value, and we would love to experience this today. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jalo Jala in Finland, and I've been reading the new results of estimating lifetime, and I figured out that if I live well, I'm gonna live 70 years more. And what I'm gonna ask is how we're gonna answer that in the world that brings to our hands many negative thoughts day by day, starting with the future of democracy and future of America, future of Russia, and ending to the climate change and immigration. How are we gonna ensure that young people of Europe will stay clear-minded and bright till the dark future?
Hello, everybody. I'm Andrea from Italy. I would like to ask, to what extent do you believe that ideas, good intentions, have a major impact in European political decisions rather than economic necessities, economic interests? For example, from an ecological point of view, how much do you believe that a sincere interest in climate change, in climate and in ecology is pushing these decisions more rather than economic or political necessities and interests?
I'm Igor, I come from Cyprus. It has been 30 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall, 15 years since the EU expansion of 2004, and yet Eastern Europe is still lagging far behind Western Europe. The wages in Poland are 1/3 the wages in Germany, and many other countries are in such similar positions. Is there more that the European Union can do to help Eastern Europe develop to the levels of Western Europe? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ante and I'm from Latvia. And since there were mentioned fake news before, and I'm very interested in media literacy, my question is, do these fake news or websites really impact the work of the EU Parliament? And how does the Parliament fight these messages? Do you release counter news to debunk the fake? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rosalie from the Netherlands, and my question is, do you really believe that young people like Greta Thunberg have an influence, and if so, in which way?
Raising awareness in people which often do things without even thinking about the consequences or without even being acknowledged about what they are causing is a very strong issue. And so we think that education is very important to raise awareness, but we also talked about alternatives and renewable energy, which means that we have to strongly underline the advantages that renewable energy linked to interconnection of energy, which could actually lead to interconnected energy would mean to be safer and to have our electricity and our production safer and to save also a lot of money because actually we can lend and borrow our electricity or just sell it, and so save a lot of money in the production of energy. While talking about alternatives, if we want to cut emissions, we have to produce less and recycle more. We strongly underline the importance of recycling, which could lead, in our opinion, to raise taxes on polluting items and to lower prices on recyclable items, and maybe these taxes, which we take from polluting items, could go to increase transport efficiency, because of course a transport efficient grid could easily lead us to use them more.
Ought Europe to restrict freedom of expression where there is a security risk? And what should be done if an EU member state breaches these principles without a valid reason? Well, we had many different points of view, and the first solution we came up with was we need to find a definition of what is a threat to national security. We came up with the definition: internal and external security of the state in regards to its integrity, its people, its foreign relations, and coexistence with other nations. If this is endangered, that means there is a threat to national security, and this was one of the first points we actually thought of. Second up, we thought, what does a country need to do? What do we as European Union need to do if a country disobeys these rules? We came up with a punishment system, and the first one would be light sanctions. After this, if you've disobeyed this, there are high sanctions. Third of all, we would deny membership rights. And fourth, we would get rid of their EU membership. We believe this is of utmost importance, since human rights are one of the things we do stand for in the European Union, and we believe that we should fight for this.
If I understood you correctly, you said limit the rights of people. Don't you think that that would cause a rebellion from people, because they would be mad that you are limiting their rights?
We understand your concern, and this is, of course, fully understandable. What we phrased was that it is acceptable to limit human rights, but only when security is at stake, since it's necessary to protect everyone's safety, and only if it is justifiable against the definition of national security, which I had stated before. So that actually means that human rights will stay the way they are and intact, and everyone's rights will be protected. But we discussed it in the committees that we believe that a greater good is of importance, and that only in the cases that it is decided that national security is at threat, that only in those cases human rights will be limited, but this will be decided by the courts in those nations.
My group was very focused on a psychological point of view on addiction. Because you can't ignore the social background of a person who suffers from addiction. So we decided that the best option would be to create a European-wide educational program to learn how to cope with problems or bad emotions, to avoid addictive behavior as a solution, which is in fact not. So we want to start this program from a very, very young age. We thought about the age of 6, to teach young children how to cope with their problems instead of just using drugs or alcohol as a solution. We want to expand this program for the age of 12 and higher, and therefore we want to talk about drugs and addiction in special. So we want to specialize the education about drugs and addiction at the age of 12, but not earlier. We want to talk about this concerning legal and also illegal drugs, illegal and also legal drugs, because in our group we decided that alcohol should be also called a drug like the others. So I'm now open for questions. Thank you.
Why would we start the program at the age of 6? Because at the age of 6, I think children are dreaming about Santa Claus, and they're they don't even know what alcohol is. Why would we start? We're gonna destroy their childhood. They're still dreaming. They still have a life ahead of them.
Yeah, that's why I said we would start the program which copes with alcohol, drugs and addictions at the age of 12. At the age of 6 we want a program which teaches the children how to cope with problems, with bad emotions. Everyone has this. Also young children have bad emotions, and we thought that it was best to start at that young age, because there it's easier to learn for the children.
We advise member states to act in relation to the decline in population and the active population, those who are working and who will go into work later. This can be done, this action can be taken via migration measures and immigration, or, as in the case of Denmark, we have a Danish representative here, through aid to get the birth rate up. So we think there should be a European ethical tax to promote companies supporting the environment and who are in favour of fair working conditions in the developing countries and at the borders of Europe. We think a committee should be set up for commercial diplomacy at European level. So we think it shouldn't be possible anymore for member states to have this commercial diplomacy on an individual basis without consulting most European governments. And our last proposal is that, based on the EU's proposal, there should be a community solidarity fund to make sure that we have a Europe based more on solidarity, where the European Parliament has more powers and where the European Parliament can represent us more and take decisions based on what we think.
First of all, I would like to address the issue by exposing some causes. Since 2015, we have seen a rise in the numbers of refugees. These people have hope and are trying to find a better life on our continent. But at the same time, danger awaits, because through these waves, Islamic insurgent groups are accessing and entering Europe. So what should we do? Preambulatory clauses. Having regard to the massive waves of refugees heading towards Europe, aware of the fact that Islamic insurgent groups are using the refugee waves to enter Europe, recognizing the role of the Dublin regulation, which aims to help refugees, guided by the Convention of the Status of Refugees, approving the initiatives of member states by fostering refugees on their territories or aiding them through different means, urging the creation of educational and social programs, operative clauses, calls upon different NGOs in order to collaborate with EU and manage the situation effectively by offering medical aid via different organizations and agencies like the Red Cross or Red Crescent, offering supplies with the help of different agencies like UNAID or EU aid, creating checkpoints in order to avoid further hostile activities. Urges member states to cooperate by fostering refugees inside their territory, offering medical and financial aid, having the refugees distributed based on the capacity of the country. Authorizes the creation of social and educational programs which aim to teach children tolerance and transparency, effectively integrate them in the society of the fostering member states, avoiding acts of extremism and radicalism, and last, deciding to remain activists on the matter.
One of the more common ideas was the expansion of already existing programs. Europe already does a lot for its young people, including the European Social Fund and the European Youth Initiative. we propose expanding both. We see that expansion of both is absolutely necessary to any solution of the European problem, especially expanding both the programs in rural areas where they're often not found, and rural unemployment is very high amongst European countries. A lot of our ideas also came from national policies that are proposed to be moved to a union level. An idea came from the Finnish delegation about of work vouchers, where an employer will employ a young person and the European Union can cover a small part of his initial costs. So let's say a quarter or a third of his wage for the first 2-3 months. This is to get the person so-called the first leg in the door into the labor market, so people can get a job and people can start somewhere. Another interesting proposal proposed to us by the Danish delegation was the idea of mandatory internships. The idea is that everyone has to do an internship in their last 2-3 years of high school, so that everyone has some sort of basic knowledge, some sort of vocational education, some sort of entrepreneurial education or business education, some sort of basic work education where they can get work experience and they can get a job. There's a lot of evidence supporting the idea that getting vocational education helps youth employment. Countries which have mandatory vocational education or have greater access to vocational education typically have half the unemployment rate of those which do not. And also it helps with many social issues such as depression and other things, because people who have a job are more likely to have a stable career later in their life.
How do you pretend to employ young people, being a fact that people are dying in an older age? So like, if people are dying older, they'll keep working until they are older too. That would mean that you would have a lot of employees. That's it.
Thank you very much for your question. Europe is currently in a demographic crisis. There is a very low birth rate and a very high, people live for a very long time, so we have a population pyramid that is very top heavy. And so we need to increase youth employment to balance this out. Yes, people do live longer. Yes, people do work for more. Yes, but people tend to retire. And when people retire, they're no longer part of the economic active population. And so we need to attract more and more youth to replace them, to assist them, to pay for their pensions and to assist them in their retirement. I don't think anyone here wants to retire in poverty, and to make sure that everyone has a good retirement, we need to attract young people to help take and have good jobs for them. Thank you.